A Hand in the Dark continued. Charlie hesitated, his hand held in midair. His eyes had adjusted to the dark room, and he could see her hand now palm down on the bedsheet, fingers barely twitching. He thought Elise might still be asleep, perhaps, but... Hey! Charlie breathed a single syllable and held his breath, waiting. An index finger lifted up and then down. Was that a hey? The index finger lifted again. Do you know where you are? The index and second, third fingers touched the thumb. No. Charlie recognized the negative hand sign from ASL, or American Sign Language. His sister was deaf and everyone in his family had learned ASL. It had been a long time since he had used it, but he could still recognize the basic hand signs. I know some ASL, Charlie whispered. That's a no, right? Her hand curled into a fist that she tucked into her wrist. Yes. And that's yes. Yes. Okay. Do you know who I am? Charlie's whisper seemed to echo in the stillness. The hand curled into a C. C, is that C for Charlie? Yes. Smart girl. Charlie couldn't help but be impressed. Okay. I should go get the doctor. No. No. No doctor? No. Well, I only had 5 minutes, and that was about 4 minutes ago. If I don't get him, he'll be here anyways. The hand stretched out, palm flat on the bedsheet. I'll be right back, Charlie whispered, just as a couple light taps came from the door. He went to the door and cracked it open an inch. Time's up, the doctor said from the hallway. I know. She just woke up. Wait! Charlie hissed as the doctor started to push the door open. She's not talking, but she knows sign language. She's communicating by sign. Do you know sign language? The doctor hesitated on the other side of the door. No, he hissed back. Do you? Charlie smiled. Yeah, a little. Yes, no, most letters. I'll help. Charlie moved back from the door so the doctor could slip in before pushing the door closed quietly again. They both hesitated as they let their eyes adjust before moving towards the bed. The doctor looked carefully at the monitor screens before bending over Elise. Hi there, Miss Campbell. This is Dr. Adams. Can you hear me? His voice was just a whisper. A fist curled and tucked into a wrist. Yes, said Charlie in a whisper. Do you know where you are, Miss Campbell? 2 fingers touch a thumb. No, whispered Charlie. Okay, so fist for yes and fingers touching thumb for no? Yes. You were admitted to University Hospital this morning. You were at the police station. You hit your head on the floor. Do you remember what happened? There was no response. Miss Campbell, can you hear me? Yes. Can you remember anything that happened this morning? Nothing. Then she signed. No. Okay. Don't worry. You're going to be fine. You have more than a mild concussion, so we're going to keep you here overnight for observation. No. Charlie glanced at the doctor to see if he'd seen the no. From the expression on the doctor's face, Charlie guessed he had. Miss Campbell, you are suffering from a concussion. The hospital's policy is to keep all head trauma patients a minimum of 24 hours for observation. His whisper fell silent. He saw the fingers opening and closing, 2 fingers touching and releasing the thumb over and over. No, no, no. Well, give us a minute. He motioned Charlie to go to the door with him. I'll be right back, Charlie whispered, placing his fingers on Elise's palm for a second. Her fingers closed over his tightly, and he startled, looking at the doctor, whose eyebrows were raised. Scout's honor. I'll be right back. Promise. Charlie squeezed her hand in return and let go, standing and nodding to the doctor. I had never liked doctors or hospitals. Scratchy sheets on hard, narrow beds in rooms that were always uncomfortably cold. I'd only ever been in the hospital once before when I'd had my first migraine. My parents had thought I was having a seizure when it turned out to be just a symptom of the onslaught of puberty. A nasty symptom. I never got cramps, I just got migraines. I really envied the girls who got cramps. I had recognized Officer Wilkins when he came into the room. The belt on his uniform smelled of old leather, and it squeaked. It might have been another officer, but I doubted that anyone from the police station would have bothered besides Charlie. I seemed to be more of a nuisance to most of them, except to him. It had been a relief when I heard him say he knew sign language. I didn't know much, but Chrissy was an interpreter for the deaf. She taught me some basic signs, and signing yes was as much a reflex as saying yes after all these years. I could feel the migraine pounding through my skull with another separate agony that seemed to come from the back of my head. The pain was dampened under a blanket of drugs. I recognized something that felt like a narcotic, in addition to normal migraine pain blockers, but the pain was definitely still there. Every single sound felt like someone hitting me with a wooden bat. The slightest hint of light was like being stabbed through my temples with knitting needles. I could feel my thoughts trying to form coherent patterns, but it was all too much. As the doctor and officer whispered together by the door, I felt myself slipping back into unconsciousness. An instant of bright light hit me, causing me to hiss and burrow into the pillow. He went out again, and then there was silence. I smelled leather and heard the faintest of creaks as the officer lowered himself into the chair. "So, still here?" Just a whisper of a question. I signed yes. "Okay, so the doctor really does not want to release you before tomorrow?" "No." "I know. You want to go home?" "Yes," I signed. "I know," Charlie said. "I would too. I'm not a big fan of hospitals either, but there is a concern about possible complications." I'd heard enough. Still laying mostly on my stomach, I started to push myself up on my elbows. I'd crawl my way out of here if I had to. Something was keeping me from bending my left elbow, which in turn kept me from getting more than a few inches off the mattress, but the motion was enough to make my head pound so hard I really thought I was going to explode. I tried to breathe. "Oh," a whisper, a hand on my shoulder, pushing me gently back, but firmly. "Easy, okay? Relax. I got it." I let my shoulders relax into the bed, tears leaking from the corners of my eyes. Glad for the anonymous darkness. It just hurt so bad. "Elise." A pause, then I signed yes. "Let me talk to the doctor. Let me see what I can do." I flicked my fingers towards the door. "Go."